Welcome to the studio and our first video on a series of videos regarding stuff not in the asanas. There are 8 limbs of yoga. There's the yamas. Yamas are external considerations, kind of like truth, right? There is a universal truth that applies to everybody. That's yamas. Niyamas are internal considerations like self-reflection and discipline. We have asana practice, which is movement. We have pranayama, which is our energy, our breath. It focuses on breath. Let me slow down. Welcome to the studio and the first of a series of videos focusing on other aspects of yoga than movement. Often we see a yoga studio, or we think that, we consider to ourselves, oh yeah, I practice yoga. What we're really practicing is asana. Asana is one of 8 facets. There are a couple of different paths. The path that I follow is an 8-fold path by a fellow named Patanjali. We don't need to focus on any of that right now. What are the others? What are all of the different limbs? Okay, we have yamas. Yamas are external considerations, kind of like non-violence and truth are 2 yamas. We're going to get into more of that later. Yamas are things that apply universally. Then you have niyamas, that's number 2. These are not in any particular order. Niyamas could be considered more internal study, like self-reflection or discipline. We're going to talk about all of that soon, today, even this video. So you have yamas, niyamas. You have asana, which is movement. Next you have pranayama. Pranayama is breath, or our energy, or our potential. It's not energy like the way we use energy in the West, like electricity is energy to be used. Pranayama is a little bit more subtle than that. So you've got yamas, niyamas, asana, pranayama. You also have freeing yourself from your own ego. Freeing yourself from your own ego. We will talk about that. The yamas and the niyamas can be considered an excellent base of tools and context building for witnessing our ego in action and peeling away the layers of that ego in day-to-day life. Withdrawal of the senses. One way to consider withdrawal of the senses is freeing yourself from other people's expectations. Peer pressure is a very easy thing to consider. Peer pressure, don't do it. Withdraw your senses from that. You don't need to do something because you feel like you should. If you feel like you should, yes, but if you feel like they feel like you should, okay? More on that later. Meditation has its own whole focus. So if you imagine all of the stuff on asana, all of the different hundreds of different postures and the hours and hours and hours and hours that we can spend just moving our bodies, every one of these could be that in depth and is more in depth. Honestly, there's a limit to the movement of the body. When we get into some of these other concepts, there's really no limit as to where you can take them. Finally, the 8th one is ascension or enlightenment. And enlightenment is not a thing you go and obtain. It is a thing that happens. And what we know about it anyway, what we know about it is the thing that it happens. We'll talk about more of that. We'll talk more about that one some other time. So to recap, I do feel like I have so much information to impart, and I'm trying to keep it concise. Yamas are sort of like external philosophies. Niyamas are internal philosophies. Asana is movement. Pranayama is energy or breath. We have meditation. Free yourself from your own ego. Free yourself from others' expectations. And then we have enlightenment. Okay, that was a lot. That was a lot of information in a very short amount of time. The point of all that is to let you know that there's an awful lot more to yoga than just the postures. Interestingly enough, all facets, all 8 limbs can be practiced through asana. All 8 limbs of yoga can be practiced through asana. So when we're doing our physical postures, it's an opportunity to explore the other facets, the other 7 limbs. For today, because there's 5 yamas and there's 5 niyamas. We're not going to get into all of them today. We're going to talk about one. The basis of all yoga. Non-violence. Non-violence. On its face, it's an easy concept. Don't be violent. Don't strike people. Don't hit them. You know, don't cut people off in line. You know, there's a lot of easy ways to look at that because we have a lot of violence in the world, right? We turn on the news and we witness violence. We have a lot of easy things to look towards to see, well, that's violent behavior. Let's not engage in it. But nonviolence as a practice goes so much farther than that. I'd like to try to give everybody something that they can relate to immediately. You're in a situation where somebody asks you to go somewhere and you agree, but you don't want to go. And later on, and all of us have had this conversation with ourselves and with others. Why did I say yes? Why did I say yes to do that thing? I don't want to do that thing. That's not practicing nonviolence to ourselves or truth and nonviolence to the other. Where we're conveying a willingness to go and we're not. And we're not being our authentic selves to that person or to ourselves. Truth and nonviolence are pivotal for all yoga practice. Nonviolence being just like the king. If there was only one that everybody practiced and we all practiced nonviolence, things would lead pretty swiftly to the others. So, you know, drinking too much alcohol, eating too much food, even the food that we eat. You know, maybe, you know, a lot of people like to go toward vegetarianism or even veganism. If you're not going to do that, and that's fine, but maybe buy the best quality animal products you can. Cage-free, you know, shun factory farming, shun antibiotics, and all of these other things, you know. There are 1,001 ways every day that we can practice nonviolence. It's not just a study of physical violence towards other people. Driving less, walking more, maybe smiling a bit more and laughing and singing more. Nonviolence could be construed as what we consume in our news and media. You know, doom scrolling. How we speak to ourselves. How many times have one of us said, "Oh, that was stupid," to ourselves? That's not practicing nonviolence. So nonviolence is a big one. It's a powerful, transformative concept the more you start to apply it. And it's not pacifism. Nonviolence is not being a pacifist. If someone else is going to be violent toward you, it is not nonviolence for you to allow them to harm you. So even the concept of defending your own physical space has a layer of nonviolence to it. And it's not, we're not rules lawyering here, or, you know, we're not trying to get around some ideas. So maybe for a little bit, you know, maybe this month, or, you know, in December's series of asana practice, consider nonviolence. Consider every asana that you do, and do it in a way that only feels good. It doesn't feel like you're harming your body or you're pushing your body in a way that you don't like. And maybe consider that idea of nonviolence some other singular place in your life, right? I would love to get comments on this. If you have comments and thoughts and considerations on where nonviolence feels like it can't be practiced, or where it seems to fit too easily, please, by all means, go ahead. So nonviolence is the first, it's called ahimsa in Sanskrit, and it's the first of the yamas. And the yamas are the first of the 8 limbs of yoga. You know, let me take that back. The translations I've read, nonviolence is the first of the yamas, and the yamas are the first of the 8 limbs. Not asana. We often think we go to yoga. We don't. We go to asana studios and we practice asana most often. So anyway, that's our log for today. That's our video on philosophy. I hope you've got something out of it. I know there was a huge amount of information there. Feel free to comment. All right. Namaste. And I will see you on the flip side.